When we talk about interference in democracy using technology, what are we talking about? How is it done?
Okay, so let's look at it this way. There is an electoral process to establish that democracy. So any external activity that interferes with the outcome, one, or people's opinion, the public opinion about the outcome, is what you can term as election interference or interference within the democratic process.
Right.
Yeah. So for many people, when you say election interference, the first thing that comes to their mind is cyber, right? But then there are two parts of this. There is the information operations, and then there is the cyber operations. Now, under the information operations, we can discuss disinformation, where fake news, propaganda, and all these things come to play. And then under the cyber operations, that is where you discuss unauthorized access to maybe infrastructure that supports the electoral process. So someone gains access to maybe a biometric database, alters the register. Someone is able to intervene within the electronic voting system and maybe do what we call vote tampering, so that the outcome is skewed to a particular interest. Yeah, so those are actually the two structures under which you can put election interference. So it's a bit misleading when somebody says, well, this has nothing to do with us. We do offline voting. Yes, you may do offline voting, but the democratic process includes people's opinion. So if I stage maybe a social media misinformation warfare or disinformation warfare, and I could get one candidate to be disliked, you have actually interfered with the electoral process. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how widespread is this around the world? How often does this happen?
It's so at the scale of which reports have been reading. I think one of the credible reports is from Carnegie. They have what they call the International Peace Endowment Report, and they had a 2018 report which captured about 5 European countries, not only doing suspicion but reporting incidents of electoral interference from other states. You may know the culprit, but I'm sure we'll get there. We'll
tell us. Let's get to it.
Right.
Who was the culprit?
So in all 5 countries, Russia is the culprit. So 2016, the United States, and then we had 2017, we had France, we had Germany, we had Dutch, and then we had Sweden. And there were different engagements. In the US, for instance, we had access to what you call electoral personnel, like people who were at the forefront of the elections, people whose image and persona, if they could alter, would definitely change the complexion of the electoral votes. And so they did that. They got access to the Democratic National Committee's office electronically.
Wow.
They were able to pick up information, emails, correspondence on Hillary Clinton, and they smeared it on her, and it worked. It worked. And as I speak to you now, 12 Russian military operatives, intelligence operatives, are under FBI wanted list. And if you go to the FBI website, you can see that. And it's clearly about election interference. So that 2016 activity in the United States is our class case for interference. Then we could go to the Dutch scenario. Theirs was about the parliamentary. In fact, it got to the extent where they moved their e-voting to offline voting. Yes, that's how uneasy they got. And for many people who at least practice cybersecurity, nobody plays with Russia and China when it comes to these cyber activities. You could credit them with a level of understanding of the space. They've been known to be very good at what they do, stealth mode attacks and all that. So yes, but the Dutch intelligence also picked this up in 2016. So they kind of like start to put preparations in order to make sure that everything was in check. It happened to Macron too in the France election. I don't know if you followed, but at a point, the message was that Macron was gay. That was a fake news warfare. That was a disinformation warfare, and Macron has to set up what he called the fake news commando team, comprised of technologies, lawyers who were able to kind of like drill down, decipher the information, try to find the source, and also be able to manage the impact that it was going to have on his campaign. So, and the French intelligence has this as part of their reports, that indeed they did have election interference from the information warfare point of view. Let's go to the UK. Prior to Brexit, the snap votes, Theresa May, there was 188 cyber attacks against the UK. Yes, it's on the records, so people who are listening can verify these things. And why? Because the Russian interest was not really about the Brexit output. It was just to put, what a professor termed as distrust in democracy. So that's one of the motivation. I don't need to really get anything from you, but if I don't align with democracy, I could actually use this to show people around the world that democracy is a sham. So that's what happened with the UK. Germany also had some interaction. The German record shows that they did not really have an impact. They did two things. They wrote directly and warned Russia to stay out of their elections. They beef up their cyber infrastructure. And I think one thing that we can learn from the German scenario is the political parties came together with the government. The idea was they are more interested in protecting their democracy than allowing a third party to make a sham out of it. So it was not about if another party would be benefiting from that, interference. It was more of a country that believed that if we want to develop, if we want to grow, if we want to keep our democracy intact, then we have to come together, build a united front against a third party who ultimately, will be the one laughing at us. And so that's what they did. And then the Swedish scenario also came in. So, across the world and with top guys like the countries that I've mentioned, they have records that shows that there's been external interference in the elections, from that cyber operation and information operation point of view. So where does that leave us? We are not an exception, we are not